Assalamu alaikum, my brothers. Today we're going to predict UFC 327 Procházka versus Ulberg. My name is Omar. I'm joined by Landon.
Yo, what's up, guys?
And without further ado, let's just get right into it. This card is a banger. I just want to say before we start.
Absolutely stacked, man.
Very stacked. Only 11 fights, but it's Miami, so they had to pull out all the stops for this card. First fight, Kelvin Gastelum. Bro, why is it not? What the heck? We're going to cut that out. Kelvin Gastelum versus Vicente Luque. This is a good fight. Gastelum, this guy's strong, durable. We've seen him fight these big guys like Izzy. He took Izzy to a decision. Okay, Luque, on the other hand, he's a dangerous fighter. He has that submission threat. He also has a power. And this is a pretty good matchup. Kelvin Gastelum, he's back in middleweight. I feel like this is a difficult fight to pick, but I feel like I just lean towards the favorite in Kelvin Gastelum. His recent losses have aged very well. Like his loss against Pfeiffer.
Took him to a decision, man.
Took him to the decision, and Pfeiffer just knocked out Adesanya. Insane. He lost to Brady in welterweight. That's not a bad loss at all. Brady just lost to Morales, who's undefeated.
Beat Daniel Rodriguez, who's dangerous at times,
Exactly. Beat Daniel Rodriguez. I think I'd have to lean towards Kelvin Gastelum.
Yeah, I'm also going to take Gastelum. Same reason you said. Pfeiffer aged beautifully. He actually gave Pfeiffer some trouble at times in that fight, to the point where people, were starting to question Pfeiffer a little bit. But after, this past weekend, it's hard to question Pfeiffer. And now you have to look at Gastelum and say, wow, man, like he might still have it. Luque, on the other hand, he's coming off back-to-back losses. Kevin Holland, decent fighter when he's motivated, but he didn't really get anything off on him. He got subbed fairly quickly, dominated, lost to Joel Alvarez, who is he's a welterweight now, but like he spent most of his career at lightweight. And with Gastelum being a natural middleweight, and this fight taking place at middleweight, I think you get a distinct advantage for Gastelum, and that's why I think he's going to get the win here.
Tatiana Suarez versus Loopy Godinez. This fight's interesting because it's a prelim fight, and it's number 2 ranked Suarez versus number 6 ranked Godinez.
Could be a title eliminator for Loopy here.
Yeah, it's interesting that they put it in a prelim, right? It's a pretty stacked card. Tatiana Suarez. She's a great wrestler. She was undefeated before she fought Zhang. One of the best grapplers in that weight class. She really can't lose except to the best of the best. I think she's going to win this fight. I think she's going to dominate in the grappling, and we're just going to see a decision win from Tatiana Suarez here.
I think Loopy is a little underrated here. Just looking at her, last couple of fights, she beats Jessica Andrade. She has a win over Julia Palastri. She does have back-to-back losses before that, but it's Mackenzie Dern and Verna Jandaroba, who just fought each other for the vacant title. So then those are arguably the 2 best people in that division outside of Zhang, obviously, who was taking a little bit of a hiatus. I think Loopy's dangerous here for Suarez. I am still going to take Tatiana. Like you said, I think there's a big wrestling advantage. There's also a decent size advantage, I think, here too, and that matters a lot at the smallest weight class in the UFC. So I think she's going to be able to get her down. She's going to control it, but I would not be shocked to see Loopy, give her a real challenge here that people aren't expecting.
Yeah, just looking at the height, a 3-inch height differential and a 5-inch reach differential.
And you can look at them and tell Tatiana's just going to be she's going to be heavier on fight night.
Kevin Holland versus Randy Brown. These guys are both tall, lanky, rangy strikers. Holland's pretty unpredictable. When you think he's going to lose, he wins somehow. He kind of has that.
He's going to lose, he's going to win.
Exact. He's a win-loss fighter, but he's also entertaining. Brown is very technical, very composed striker. If this is a striking battle, this would be a great fight. Could also see Kevin Holland using the grappling that he's known for, maybe trying to take down, maybe shooting for a ghillie, something like that. At the end of the day, I'm going to stick with Randy Brown. I just think that's a safe choice. He's a consistent fighter. He's not really a win-loss type of fighter. If you want to pick one of them for your parlay, I think the safest pick would be Randy Brown. He's just that reliable type of fighter.
Yeah, we got a matchup of JDM sons here. I'm also going to take Randy Brown, but I would look out for Kevin Holland. Randy Brown, his last couple of fights, he did lose to Bonfim, but that's not a bad loss at all. Bonfim's a great fighter. He had that crazy knockout against Dalby. I don't know if you remember, where he face planted him. The right hook where he fell on his head. And then he had a loss to Brian Battle, which isn't aging great, but it's a split decision. I don't remember that fight exactly to tell you if I thought he won, but he's been, undefeated in the UFC outside of a split decision loss in a loss of bond film. I think he's the safe pick. Like you said, Holland's on a 2-fight losing streak. He's the type of guy that falls out of momentum quickly. He's streaky, but in this case, I'm going to take Randy Brown. I think he's dangerous, and I think Kevin Holland is known to crumble under pressure, and Brown's going to put a lot of that on him.
Just looking at Kevin Holland's record, I always try to anticipate a pattern. He wins, loses, wins, loses. Oh, he's going to lose the next one. Or, oh, he's going to win the next one. And then it's like the complete opposite. It's so weird.
To give you a funny pattern that I did notice while looking, since the start of 2022, his streak is loss, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss.
That's exactly what I was talking about. That one
So
win in the middle.
Theoretically, he should beat Brown by the pattern, but it's just so hard to pick Kevin Holland sometimes.
We'll see. We'll see if the pattern continues. If it does, I'm going to post a YouTube short and just say we predicted it. Say, we analyzed the pattern. We're analytical, and I'll take credit for that.
Best picks on YouTube for sure.
Yeah, best picks. We're already proven to have the best picks. Our bio says #1 picks.
Well, after we go undefeated this card, they'll have to know our name.
Exactly. That's besides the point. I'm kind of glazing us a little bit too much. But yeah, on to the next one. Mateusz Gamrot versus Esteban Ribovics. I just think Gamrot has plot armor. He has elite wrestling. Ribovics, he's a good striker, but I think in this type of matchup, you just got to favor the grappler. Gamrot, he beats these kind of lower level guys. We've seen him lose to kind of the upper echelon like Charles Oliveira,
Dan Hooker by split decision, and Dariush a few years ago.
Back when he was still in his prime, pre-Unk status.
It's a really old loss, but it doesn't really matter.
I think pre-Unk status, Dariush was really good. He was prime. He was top of the cream of the crop. People thought he was going to beat Charles Oliveira.
He was at one point the #1 contender to fight Islam in a lot of people's minds.
Before Charles Oliveira put him down. And, he's never been the same since that fight. I just think Gamrot, he only loses to the cream of the crop, the tippity top, the top dogs. And I think that he's just going to win this fight. He's going to control. He's going to take him down. He's going to shoot. He shot so many times against Charles Oliveira. What makes you think he's not even going to shoot once against Esteban and not be able to take him down? I think he's going to take him down. He's going to control the whole fight. Gamrot's just that type of guy. He's the type of guy to just shoot for takedowns 150 times, and he'll hit the takedown a couple times, and he'll just hold you down. Gamrot's just that type of guy. And I think it's going to work for him in this fight. There might be a couple boos in the crowd, stuff like that, but I think that's just how this guy's going to win the fight.
Yeah, this gives me flashbacks to when it got announced that Gamrot was going to fight Ludovic Klein. I think Klein and Ribovics are very similar tiers of fighters. I think they're very similar style-wise. You know what they're going to do. You know what they're looking for. Ribovics gets to the ground a little bit better, but I just think we're in for the same kind of scenario. Gamrot's going to use the same formula he did against Klein. He's going to take him down. He's going to control him. He's going to ground and pound him, and he's just going to win this thing. Like you said, he only loses to the best of the best. I thought he beat Dan Hooker in that fight. So in my mind, the only two real losses he's had at his peak are Oliveira, who, is in a spot where he might get a title shot soon, and peak Dariush, who was a top 5 lightweight in the world. So I think this is Gamrot, and this is going to be my lock of the card.
I mean, this isn't a bad lock, but I think the lock that I have is almost 100% guaranteed.
I actually lied. I totally forgot about something else that you might actually.
I think it's gonna be the same.
Yeah,
we'll see. On to the next one. Cub Swanson versus Nate Landwehr. I'm gonna just go with Cub Swanson right away. He's a veteran. He has slick striking. He's coming off of a KO win. And when you look at Landwehr, he's not a horrible fighter. He's had some good battles, but he's coming off of 2 KO losses. And every time I pick this guy, he betrays me. One of his last fights, I picked him to win. He ended up losing, and it was a main event too. So my freaking UFC rating went down on Xbox. But yeah, that pissed me off. I can't pick him again. I'm just gonna go for the veteran Cub Swanson, coming off of a KO, old reliable Cub Swanson.
Yeah, I debated this one heavily. This is one of the more tough ones, I think. Landwehr is coming off, like you said, back-to-back losses, 3 out of the last 4. He hasn't really had a real solid win in a long time. I mean, David Onama is probably the best one he's got recently, right? And that was almost 4 years ago. So it is hard to pick him. He used to be a really high-level prospect. Now he's not really. Cub, like you said, crafty vet. He's been doing it forever. He's hard to pick against sometimes with how wild he can be. And that had me thinking about this for a while. I am going to slightly lean Cub Swanson, but this is like a 51-49 for me. I could easily see Landwehr getting back on track here. We haven't seen these guys for a while, but I'm going to go with Cub barely.
Patricio Pitbull versus Aaron Pico. Again, why is Aaron Pico the favorite? I understand he's facing off against Pitbull, who's supposed to be like, oh, he's an old vet from Bellator, but he's coming off of a win. He just beat Ige.
Yes, he beat Ige, and that was coming off the 29-28 against Yair before.
Don't mess with this guy. And Pico, he's coming off of a loss. I know it's to Lerone Murphy, who had a controversial loss against Evloev recently. I don't know. I cannot pick Aaron Pico. The odd makers glaze this guy for some reason. Just because he's good at wrestling and he was really good in Bellator. I'm just going to have to pick Pitbull. He's proved more in the UFC. That's what I'm going to say. He's proved more in the UFC against top-level contenders.
This is a bit of a funny fight to me, because Dana White put these guys in the prelims, and this would have been like an all-time great Bellator fight, like one of their biggest fights ever. He made a lot of great points about Pitbull. I do think he's a better fighter than Pico. He had the Yair fight, which I don't want to say was close, but he definitely got a round off of him. He had the win against Dan Ige, which is really impressive. But I'm actually going to take Pico here as a little bit of like a hot take, even though I think Pitbull's better. I don't know what it is. I feel like he's going to find some shot, whether it's on the feet or he's going to be able to get him down and use that brutal ground and pound that he was known for outside of the UFC. Something is just telling me that Pico's going to have like a redemption fight here. Sort of like with Pitbull. He fought Yair, had the performance he did, and everyone kind of made fun of him and, said what they said about him. He was an underdog against Ige. Everyone thought Ige was going to beat him, and then he went out and beat Ige, pretty clearly. And I feel like this is Aaron Pico's moment for that. He has a lot to prove. If he loses this fight, he might be on the ropes as far as his UFC career goes. And I think he's going to be aggressive like he was against Lerone. And I don't know that Pitbull is going to be able to have that crazy knockout like Lerone did. So I'm actually going to take Pico here. It's not an upset by the odds makers, but I think it should be. I think Pitbull should be the favorite, like you said. I'm taking Pico here. I have some faith in him. Maybe it's blind, maybe it's wrong, but something about this fight, I like the matchup for him.
Azamat Murzakanov versus Paulo Costa. Now this is my lock. This is my lock.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about when I said
I forgot
something.
I knew it because this is the worst matchup for Paulo Costa. First off, Paulo Costa, super inactive. The complete opposite of Azamat Murzakanov, who's pretty active. Murzakanov, undefeated. He has crazy power, knocking people out in the first round. Just coming off of a Rakic KO.
Brutal.
Costa, he's not bad himself. He brings pressure. He has volume as well. And, he has a pretty good chin. He rarely gets KO'd, but he was TKO'd against Israel Adesanya.
Izzy did get him.
But it wasn't really like a clean KO. So
no, he's never been like truly knocked out that I remember.
Yeah, he might survive against Azamat Murzakanov. He might be able to edge it to a decision, but I don't know. I think Azamat has crazy power. He's like the type of guy that tests people's chins. That like, oh, this guy has a very strong chin. But when he fights Azamat Murzakanov, of course he's going to knock him out. Kind of like how Ilya knocked out Max Holloway. Paulo's moving up, lighter man skill. He might have that, but I don't know. He was a pretty good big guy in middleweight. And also when you move up, your chin kind of gets stronger. You don't have to cut weight anymore. So that might be a factor there. That might give Paulo a little bit of an advantage, prevent him from getting KO'd. But I just think Azamat Murzakanov has it, I think, in terms of striking. He's just a better striker. More powerful, better everything. I'm glazing Azamat Murzakanov right now because he deserves to be glazed. I think this guy's a future champ. I think we're going to see the Azamat Murzakanov era soon, probably next year. I think Jiří's going to be champ for a little bit this year. I think if he wins this fight, you could argue that he deserves a title shot. Yeah, this is my lock. I think he's going to win. He's either going to KO him in the first or second round, or Paulo's going to be able to make it to the third round.
I'll keep this short, honestly. I think Murzakanov is going to be a champion by the end of 2027 in this division. Mm-hmm. I honestly think with Alex going, he's probably the second, like as of now, the second best fighter in the division, maybe third. But I think he can beat Jiří with his power. This is a lock. I would be shocked if Paulo found a way to win. Like you said, could easily go to a decision. He's got a great chin. He's a big middleweight to begin with. He's always kind of looked like a light heavyweight anyway. So I don't know if size is going to be the issue, but I think Murzakanov is going to beat him, whether it's by knockout, whether it's by decision. And he's going to keep his win streak going. He's going to keep rolling up the rankings. And I think he is in good position to get a title shot either later this year or in early 2027. And I think there's a really good chance that he wins that.
Dominick Reyes versus Johnny Walker. This is like rock versus paper. We know which one's which. Johnny Walker has a paper chin. He has a glass chin. He has the weakest chin ever known to mankind. I bet I could probably knock him out by tapping on his chin a little bit. No disrespect, Johnny Walker. I like Johnny Walker. He's a good fighter. But I just think Dominick Reyes, he has the power. We saw what he did to Nikita Krylov, knocked him out in the first round. Granted, Krylov wasn't respecting his power at all. I think he's going to do the same thing to Johnny Walker. This is the type of guy that gets knocked out cold by Jamal Hill. Come on. This guy gets knocked out in the goofiest ways. He gets knocked out by people who don't really knock out people at all in their careers. This guy's a highlight reel merchant. He gives other fighters highlight reels. That's his job in the UFC. I mean, he's a great fighter. He's very entertaining. You know, one of my favorites. Love to see his fight. Always tune into a Johnny Walker fight. But I think he's going to get furiously knocked out. I think it's going to be bad. He's going to be slumped. It's going to be goofy, like always. You know, Dominick Reyes, he's like the perfect guy to do it. He has hella knockouts. He has been knocked out a couple times, but he doesn't have a glass chin like the people that knock him out. Jan Blachowicz, legendary Polish power. Jiří Procházka, let's go for that. Let's go for that. And, you know, Ulberg. These guys are powerful. I feel like this is a pretty obvious pick. Dominick Reyes, I think he's going to KO Johnny Walker first round. It's going to be ugly.
Yeah, I'm also taking Reyes. Johnny Walker has obviously fought a little bit better recently. He had the nice win against Ming Yang in China. Nobody thought he was going to get. Reyes obviously coming off a KO loss to Ulberg. You know, no shame in that. Ulberg's a great fighter. He's fighting for the title on this card later. Yeah, I'm taking Reyes. I think the revival's been great for him. I think he has the power to knock Johnny Walker out. Like you said, terrible chin. He's a great wrestler. Doesn't show it as often as, you know, he used to on the come up. But, I mean, he's a good all-around guy. He's got the power. He's got the IQ. You know, just everything that Johnny Walker really doesn't have anymore. And, yeah, I think this is a nice bounce-back fight for him. You know, you got two names in there, you know, recognizable guys to put on the card. I think Reyes is just going to take it, get a little mojo back, and look to reload, reschedule another fight soon, try and climb back up the rankings, get another top 5 opponent like he did with Ulberg.
And let's not forget, Dominick Reyes was the guy that beat John Jones. Okay? Whooped him. And was robbed, unfortunately. I think this is Dominick Reyes' fight. They basically gifted him Johnny Walker's head on a silver plate. Ooh, this one was tough to pick. Curtis Blaydes versus Josh Hokit. The reliable vet versus the undefeated up-and-comer. Josh Hokit, he's undefeated. He's coming off of a first-round KO or something. Blaydes, his wrestling's elite. He's fought top contenders and won. Beat the likes of... He just beat Kunaev. He knocked out Almeida. So he's known for kind of testing up-and-comers and derailing hype trains. This is a crazy step up in competition for Josh Hokit. I mean, he was just on the prelims, and now he's on a main card of like a very stacked fight. This is insane. If this isn't Dana White privilege, I don't know what is. And he's coming off the Dana White Contender Series. If you come out of that, you spawn in with Dana White privilege. This is what we see for Josh Hokit. I mean, he is undefeated, but this is insane. And it's not like they're giving him someone low in the rankings. This is Curtis Blaydes.
Yeah, this is also a little bit weird that Blaydes took this fight. I don't know what he did to get the UFC on his bad side, where he's back-to-back fights taking unranked guy after he had to fight Tom Aspinall, like 2 out of his last 3 fights before that. But I'm actually going to take Blaydes here, though. Hokit's fun. You know, he's got a personality to him. He's one of those guys that you just know the UFC is going to push because he's got a, you know, big mouth. He talks a lot. He has great personality, and, you know, the way he just sells fights is up there. You know, I'm sure you've seen his interviews and his, you know, post-fight stuff.
Yeah, it's like WWE level promos, like the way he cuts his promos.
He knows what to do, you know, to how to cut a promo. He's got that skill. I give him that. But I think this is a really big step up. Blaydes doesn't really lose to guys like this. You know, he had Kunaev, who he, you know, had a tough fight against, but, you know, we know Kunaev is a great fighter now. He's been in the UFC for a little while. Hokit, I think, just has a lot to prove, and I feel like they're rushing him a little bit into the spotlight, trying to advance him up the rankings so they can have, you know, a star at heavyweight. I know they're a little scared of losing Tom Aspinall. They just lost John Jones. So I can see the benefit to the UFC by putting him in the spot. I think they might have, you know, bit off more than they can chew, and they might be ruining a potential star before it can get going by putting him against Blaydes.
It's always a bad idea to push these stars up the rankings as quick as possible. I mean, we've seen what happened with Bo Nickel previously against RDR. Yeah, you got to gradually push these fighters. You can't just get a boss battle right after your second fight in the UFC or whatever. I think this is a better fight for Curtis Blaydes. He's the more experienced guy in the octagon. He's been through more adversity. I could see Hokit winning. I'm not going to count him out completely. I think this is Curtis Blaydes' fight to win. If he loses, loses, that's not a good look. It's either not a good look or it means we have a great new contender. So
We had a real, like, I mean, straight up give him a title shot if he beats Blaydes. Him versus Aspinall with Loki,
exactly.
like, would just be cinema, and they'd want to do that too.
Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira, two young and up and coming fighters. This fight is really good for the division. I mean, we rarely see two young fighters fighting at this level, at a championship level. A striker versus grappler matchup. That's basically what this is. If Van wants to win, he has to keep it standing, and we know he's a great striker. I think Taira, he's just too good. I think he's going to overwhelm him with the takedowns. I think this is what people thought Pantoja would do to Van. I thought this is the Pantoja matchup. But yeah, I think Taira has the ability to win. Give me Tatsuro Taira.
This is a really fun fight. I mean, you're looking at two guys, super young, on the come up, great fighting styles, entertaining, great personalities, the whole package that you would want. Taira, they want to go to Japan. I'm sure that they would love to have a Japanese champion for that. I would not mind seeing, Taira versus Pantoja, in Japan in the Tokyo Dome. I think that would just be insane. Yeah, this one's another hard one. Like you said, Van has to keep this thing on the feet. And to his credit, even though the fight was like 30 seconds in, he had stuff like what, two takedowns or like a takedown and a clinch from Pantoja.
Mm-hmm.
He's clearly been working on it. Not a great sample size. I'm gonna take Van, I think. It's so hard to predict this one.
Yeah, this is very 50-50.
I think there's just a chip on his shoulder right now. I think he's got something to prove. He shot up through the rankings. He had that amazing, all-time performance against Royval. A lot of people were counting him out against Pantoja. And, during that fight week, he had a lot to say about how he was going to attack Pantoja and how, people were doubting him, but he was going to do it. It would almost give you like Moreno vibes back in the day when he was going against Figueiredo. And I think now people are counting him out again. They're saying he doesn't deserve to be the champion. They're saying that he didn't earn it. And he's got a potential superstar level guy in front of him in Taira that the UFC is going to back, the fans are going to back. And I think all of this, he can either crumple under that pressure or he can rise above it. And I think Van is the type of guy who's going to rise above it. And he's going to come out with a really gutsy win here in a close fight. And he's going to prove why he was in that position with Pantoja in the first place and why he's going to, get that rematch with Pantoja where we're going to see the best two flyweights in the world go at it at some point.
If he wins that fight, what you just said is going to be used in an edit. He has to rise above. He has to get that win. That's in
a short anyway.
We're going to put it in a short. Jiří Procházka versus Carlos Ulberg. I love this fight, and this is the reason.
Same.
In the beginning of the year, when Alex Pereira was still champ, I predicted that he was going to move up and that Jiří Procházka would be the champion. And I even had a dream about it. I had a vision.
What did he see?
I saw Jiří Procházka. He picked me up. He flew me away. He took me to promised land, to the land of champs. You can call me Martin Luther King because I had a dream. And
sure.
I think Jiří Procházka, he's going to win, not just because of my dream. Candace Owens, I don't know if you've been watching Candace Owens, but
I know about her.
You know about her and, how she believes dreams are real and they prove things. You know what I mean?
Candace Owens is coming into fight predictions.
This is the Candace Owens method. If this works, bro, shout out to Candace Owens, bro.
If this works, we're all dreaming about every main event.
Exactly. If this works, I'm going to find out how to dream about every win. I had a dream about Jiří Procházka. Candace Owens method. I think he's going to win. He just has so many things going for him. He's undefeated except for Poatan, except for Sean McKean, Alex Pereira, the guy with the most aura in the UFC. And he's a samurai too. He's wild, unpredictable. He absorbs shots with his head. Like, who does that? He has the best way of fighting. He loses up until the last second. He even became champ that way against Glover. He was losing the fight until he choked Glover out.
He's the ultimate edge fighter.
This is going to be a great fight. Ulberg, I think he has a possibility to win, but if we're looking at the script, if we're looking at the UFC script, at the plot line, it just has Yuri's name written all over it. Yuri's just the guy to win this fight. He's the samurai. He's the guy that had 2 fights with Alex Pereira. He's lost via shamanistic magic that Alex Pereira used against him. Evil magic. Exactly.
The Goliath fight, he was crying
Yeah, with that face, the expression that he made, that will be the thumbnail of this video. I think he's going to win. The plot says he's going to win. And Ulberg has been KO'd previously. He's been KO'd by Kennedy. And if you're going to be knocked out by him, Yuri's going to piece you up. He always finds the chin. He always finds the KO. We've seen against Roundtree, against Jamal Hill, against Rakic. I think this is going to be fight of the night. This is going to be a great fight. Tune into this fight. Win or loss, Jiří Procházka always brings the best fight, but I think this one's his fight. I think he's going to win this fight. Let's go for that.
Let's go for that.
Yes.
I'm a little scared for him. Ulberg's entire thing, he's very similar to Adesanya and other training partners. He's a counter striker, and he's a good one too. I mean, he is so good at, picking you off when you overextend. He's great at chopping the low kicks, making you think about your next move. And when you're thinking about your next move, you start second guessing yourself, and that's like a dream for a counter striker. That's how we saw Izzy, have so much success early, and how we've seen Ulberg, get to the spot he's in right now. And Jiří, what is he known for? It's being wild. It's being unpredictable. It's, overextending, not thinking. Yeah. Exactly. It's just like fight. He just fights. He doesn't do MMA.
He doesn't use his head to think. He uses his head to block punches. Exactly.
So he scares me a little bit that he's going to just get caught. If you remember his second fight with Alex, in the end of the first round, he got dropped because he was hunting a shot with 2 seconds left. And Alex just popped him real fast. And the fight would have been over had there been 10 more seconds. I'm worried that is going to be the case, or something similar with Ulberg. My brain is honestly telling me to pick Carlos Ulberg. Everything is saying he's gonna win. He's gonna do something stupid. He's gonna get caught. But there's something, like you said, the script, the plot,
the
everything.
Dream.
He cannot lose. There's no way Jiří loses this fight. Everything tells you he's gonna lose, and then he's just gonna win. I'm gonna take him 4th or 5th. Screw it. He's gonna win by 5th round knockout. After being down 3-1 or 4-0, he's going to finally find the shot. He's going to take Ulberg into a place he's never been before and finish him. That's going to be my prediction.
And that is the way of the samurai. He will fight, he'll be losing, and then he'll pull it out of him. He'll pull the fire out of him, and he'll just, boom, hit him with that one punch that just, crumbles him. That's going to happen. But yeah, and when that happens, that will also be an edit for Jiří Procházka.
Would you rate the card overall before we get out of here?
This might be the best card of the year so far.
I'd say it's a solid 9. Only complaint I have is that you don't have enough fights on here. I feel like you could have had some, low-key bangers to fill it out the bottom. But, what we got, fantastic. Fun card. Really excited for it. And let's go for that.
Let's go for that.